This is our AR155, acoustic and lighting. I'll be discussing module number 6, daylighting. So the module number 6, lecture number 1 is daylighting. The contents are the daylighting opportunity, energy saving with daylighting, human factors in daylighting design. Number 4 is daylighting strategies. So in the part 1, the building design recommendation for daylighting. In part 2, it's the goals of daylighting, sky conditions, daylighting factor or DF, daylighting sources, components of daylights, guidelines for initial daylighting design, design of analysis methods, daylighting simulation. So the daylighting opportunity, so designing with daylights can improve energy efficiency by minimizing the use of electricity for lighting as well as reducing associated heating and cooling loads. Daylighting is a critical design factor to those concerned about global warming, carbon emission, and sustainable design. In addition to visual comfort, research has found daylighting to be an important factor influencing human behavior, health, and productivity. Windows admitting daylight provide occupants with a view and temporal connections with the outdoor. So what are the energy savings with daylighting? To obtain lighting energy savings in a building, 6 essential components for daylighting designs are recommended by the Illuminating Engineers Society of North America. Number 1 is plan interior space for access to daylight. Number 2, minimize sunlight in the vicinity of critical tasks. This means that if you will put more sunlight in the critical task, it will create clear. So you need to minimize. So sunlight design spaces to minimize glare. Zone electric lighting for daylight responsive control, and provide for daylighting responsive control of electrical lighting, and provide commissioning and maintenance of any automatic controls. So it means that you should make the daylighting controls for this procedure so that you can control the amount of sunlight that is going inside the building. So human factors in daylighting designs, which is number 1 is windows and view. Number 2 is productivity and satisfaction. Number 3 is controlling daylight in spiral spaces. And number 4 is minimize glare. So daylighting strategies, a variety of strategies are available to control and enhance daylighting. Number 1 is design consideration in different regions. Number 2 is site design. Number 3 is orient the majority of the glazing north-south with secondary glazing to the west if necessary. So building plan form. And 5, illuminate the ceiling as much as possible. Number 6, protect against direct sunlight. Number 7, balance light with the windows, wall, and reflected daylight on the opposite wall. So based on these strategies, so it will depend on every country. So every country or every location, the daylighting strategy. So it also will depend on the site. Okay, so if the site is above the hill or below the hill or in a plateau, or it's on a urban area, on a rural area. So that will depend the type of strategy. Orient the majority of glazing north and south. This will minimize the heat transfer from the sun going inside the room or the building. So it's also critical for the building plan form. Okay. So number 5 is illuminate the ceiling as much as possible. Protect against direct sunlight. Balance light from windows, wall, and reflected daylight. No? So what are the design considerations in different regions? The daylight in tropical region use shading to prevent the transmission of direct sun beam and prevent brightness from the exterior surface that reflects light. So this is the tropical region, like in the Philippines. No? We will prevent the direct direction of light into exterior surfaces that reflects the sunlight, so that it will not cause glare to the outdoor. No? So at the same time, use shading to prevent the transmission of direct sunlight inside the room. Okay, so in daylighting in arid region or hot and dry, you need to put small windows, like in the desert or in the Middle East. No, you need to put small windows if you need a high level of windows, IRC reflected from the ceiling, and we need to create an aperture openings on the courtyard. So in these areas, the courtyard is the main source of daylight, because in the courtyard there's minimum direct sunlight. So in site design, site obstructions such as neighboring buildings, trees, and landform will determine the maximum available daylight on the site and the maximum project envelope that will preserve the daylight access to the adjacent properties. As you can see in the figure on the right side, no, if there is a building on the right side of the picture, the sunlight will not directly enter the room. No? There will be a shadow. Okay, so the efficient daylight will not be attained. So if you will be, it's in the right side, also lower right side. As you can see, if there's an adjacent property, the maximum projected buildable envelope that will preserve the daylight to adjacent property. So you need to create a setback, so that you can create a good daylight, to a particular part of the exterior environment or a particular shade. So there is also a sky angle to determine the maximum building height. There's also applications that you can use to determine the exposure of the building to sunlight and the exposure of building to daylight. Okay? So the building orientation, orient the majority of the building of the glazing north-south with the maximum exposure to more easily controllable daylight. So you need to expose the glazing or the windows on the north side part of the sun path. So the south is desirable because direct solar radiation received by the south facade is easier to control to prevent excess solar gain. Daylight is relatively uniform. So the south side is the most advantageous for excess solar gain. So the north light is the best for daylighting because it is not direct and constant diffuse skylight. It is facade. The facade is advantageous for uniform and soft daylighting. Okay, so the north side and the south side is the most advisable area that you will open up your windows, open up your the buildings, And towards the east and west, the sun is very low, almost horizontal, so it's hard to control. So the east-west direction of the sun is hard to control. So that is why the orientation of the solar panel is on the north-south, not on the east-west. So the building form, the building form is to maximize perimeter to daylight. Long and narrow footprints are better than square one for access to daylight. So buildings can be arranged in a series of wings to maximize land requirements while still allowing access to daylight. The space between the wings should not be narrow that they shade one another. So although square buildings have lower heating loads, daylight's the interior is difficult, and the imbalance between perimeter heating loads and the interior cooling loads requires a complex HVAC system. So multiple buildings benefits the most the narrow plans that keep the work areas within 10 meters of the exterior. As you can see, the most efficient daylighting is on a H, W, and U type building. Okay, so this is the effect of building form on environmental control strategies. As you can see, the thick, tall building, the core is dark, and there is unbalanced solar gain, mass, perimeter zoning, and gain in control critical. So large core requires mechanical coding, perimeter ventilates poorly. So the tall, thick building is the most disadvantageous. So that the thick, short building, top lights and perimeter windows can provide adequate daylighting. Passive heating systems may be implemented through somewhat limited and unbalanced, and passive cooling, possibly most but costly, no cross ventilation. So the thick, short building, the disadvantage is there is no cross ventilation, but The perimeter windows can provide adequate lighting because of the large span of the large area of the building that is exposed to sunlight. But the thin building that is tall or short, what is the positive advantage? Complete side lights for all spaces can be achieved. And this type of building, if it is thin and tall, you can direct the most large part to be exposed to the north-south, and the most area that is smaller, you can expose it to the east and west. So passive heating and solar gain can be mitigation is possible. So you can see this is the most possible form, no, for solar gain, no? And natural ventilation is easily accomplished because of the large sides that is exposed to north-south. So the thin combo building, which is combination of different shapes, no, completes daylighting for most spaces. Passive heating and gain and solar gain mitigation is possible, and natural ventilation is easily accomplished. So as you can see in the figure, the forms of the building, the most advantageous is the thin combo building and the thin building tall and short, tall or short. The most disadvantageous is thick tall buildings. So this is what we mostly see in the solutions of urban planning. So if you'll be going to make an urban plan, so you need to identify what shapes of the building that will be erected on the community, and provide the spaces for these shapes. No? So you need to provide a more rectangular building, rectangular shapes of lot rather than a square. No? So that the building will be directed on the rectangular shapes. No? So, and also create the rectangular shapes, the shorter side on the east-west and the longer side on the north-south. So this is also applicable in urban planning or in subdivision planning. So illuminate the ceiling as much as possible. So clerestory windows should be located as high as possible on the wall to illuminate the ceiling and grab the maximum amount of daylight. So light shelf is extremely useful to reflect light falling above the vision window up to the ceiling. So as you can see in the figure, so you can use a canopy to reflect the light to the ceiling, protect against direct sunlight. So this is one of the basic rule, no, is protect against direct sunlight. Daylight and sunlight are two terms that should not be confused. Daylight is described as the diffused light of the overcast sky, similar to all orientation, bright above and dark at the horizon, soft and cool at both temperature and color. Sunlight is warmer and stronger. So there is a difference between daylight and sunlight. So you must avoid direct sunlight exposure, and we must maximize the daylight exposure. Okay. So room geometry. So configuration of fenestration has a significant impact on the distribution of daylight within a room. The different fenestration types are discussed below. So number one is a slide window design. So higher windows and the use of light shelves and clerestories will give a larger depth of penetration for daylight. So to get daylight on the interior wall as well as the windows wall, use a skylight on roof or roof monitor near the interior wall, or simply place the opposite wall no more than 2.5 times the window height from the window wall. So as you can see in the figure on the right side, no, the higher the window, the deeper the daylighting zone. Okay, so as you can see, if it aids in the daylighting if you will put a light shelves, no. So this is commonly used in some of the high-rise buildings. So the side window design, so minimizing contrast between the windows and the wall by displaying or rounding the inside edges of the windows. Windows will create less glare if the adjacent walls are not dark relative to the window. Displaying or rounding the edges will create a light transition that is more comfortable to the eye. As you can see, this is one of solutions that they use in daylighting. They put a splayed edges. No, this you can see this in Le Corbusier's building. No, he put a splayed edges to create a more efficient daylighting inside the church. No, they also use round edges in some of the building. No, as you can see in the drawing. So this is the figure that shows the round edges. This is the figure that shows the splayed edges. This is the commonly used, no, in the windows that are being used when in the Philippines. No? So this is the illustration of a splayed edges. No, as you can see. If the windows is not splayed like this one, no, it will create a shadow. No, the penetration of the light, no, inside is not that efficient because of the corner that is 90 degrees will create a shadow. No, it will block the penetration of light. But if this corner is angled, no, like this one, the daylight will be more penetrating the room or the building. Okay, so as you can see in the figure above below, no, he put a splayed edge on the bottom so that the daylight will penetrate more, no, deeper inside the building or the room. So the window sizing, the average daylight factor equation can be used to estimating the required windows to wall ratio for adequate lighting. It is expressed in WWR, or the window to wall ratio, is equal to A, which is glazing, or divided by A is the gross wall, expressed in fraction. Whereas the glazing is the net area, window area minus mullions and framing, or approximately 80% of the opening. A cross wall is the gross area wall, width of the bay to floor height. So this is the way to calculate the window sizing. So you need to create enough space, no, to let the daylight penetrate inside the room. So small windows are being used in arid or hot areas. Large windows is used on areas that is tropical. In the United States, they use windows to gain heat inside the room. No? So they angle the room that some areas that can be cooled in during summer, and some areas are cold during the winter. Okay, so they need to the application of daylight is different from a tropical environment to a hot environment, or to a cold, you know, four weather environment. So it will be different. No? So that is why you need to know if where is the building will be erected, what is the performance, or what is the sun path. You need to identify where is the sun path, and you need to identify what shape of the building is more appropriate for that type of location. So inside windows, no, you can see inside windows, the glazing technology, the solar spectrum can be broken into three main groups. There is ultraviolet rays. Energy is most visible. Invisible embodies only about 7% of the energy in the sunlight. Infrared energy is also invisible and contains about 45% of the energy in solar spectrum. And the visible spectrum contains about 47% of the energy in solar spectrum. This is the different types of light that is being directed to the glazing. So as you can see, the visible light passes through the glazing. The infrared light is reflected and absorbed, and the ultraviolet rays is being absorbed, no, by the window glazing. So you need it, and sometimes it's reflected outside. No, they will not be permitted, no, to enter the room, the ultraviolet rays. No? So this is the type of glazing is very crucial for the buildings. So you need to identify what type of glass you will be using so that you can maximize the performance of daylighting inside your room. So the careful choice of glazing is one of the most direct ways in which a designer can control the indoor climate. So we can, there is glass and tints. Tints are absorbing materials that absorb a portion of the incident solar radiation. So you can put tints on your glass. You can use solar control films. So most retrofit films will improve the performance of the glazing, but are typically not as effective as glass that is coated during the manufacture. So you can also coat the glass, no, a solar coating films, no, control films, or you can use a gaze fills or double or triple panel windows that have void air inside, no. The most common alternative glass fills are inert glass. So that is also a type of system that you can put double glazing, just like what we discussed in acoustics, no. They put double glazing to reduce the sound transmission to the inside the room. This is also being used in solar to put double glazing to reduce the transmission of ultraviolet rays and unwanted sun rays inside the room. So we can use switchable glazing. Switchable optical windows or smart windows have the ability to change their physical properties based on predetermined conditions. So this is the smart system on glazing. So reflective coatings like low E were developed in 1970. Most low E glazing coating reflects 40 to 70% of infrared. Usually low E is a thin layer of a silver or tin oxide on the glass surface. So this is one of the innovations. So there is also what you call this nano coating, no? Nanotechnology on glazing. It is not included in this lecture. I don't know. So these are the different types of top light, which is what is called the skylights or any clerestories. No? So as you can see, this the clerestory. This is the this additional windows, no, above the ceiling, which is called the clerestory. And one times we call it as the monitor. So the monitor is the one that is on top of the building. There is also the sawtooth clerestories, and and the last one is the skylight, which is the direct opening on top of the building. So this clerestory is the indirect opening. The skylight is the direct opening on top of the building. So this is one of the solution for daylighting. Okay. So the skylight are the effective means of getting daylight deeper into the building, but are only used on top of the building. Okay, so this is the skylight. No, south-facing skylight slope from the horizontal could be greater than the site latitude of 23.5 degrees. So you need to identify or calculate what is the degree of your skylight and angle it to north-south degree, north-south orientation, so that it is maximizing the daylight penetrating inside the room. Okay, so this is also a figure replacement of as a function of the building height, as you can see in the figure. So these are the skylights. No, he put it to 1/2 of the total length of the room. Sometimes they put it 1/3, no, or 1/4. So this is also a application of a skylight, angled skylight on top of the room. So as you can see, this is very different from the what I show you before, which is the sawtooth, no? Because the sawtooth, the window glazing is vertical, but the skylight, the window glazing is almost angled, no? Not completely vertical. So this is also a diffuse incoming light for glare reduction. So you can put a trellis inside, so you can reduce the glare opening going inside the room. So sometimes you can put a splayed opening on a skylight. You angle the window, the ceiling, so that the skylight will penetrate deeper inside the room. If this one is on a 45 degrees, the skylight will be blocked by the 45 degrees angle. As you can see, no. If this has a 45 degree, what you call this ceiling, the skylight, no, will be blocked, no, by the 45 degree. So this skylight, the daylight will not penetrate deeper. The daylight will only go, no, up to that area. It will pass through on that area. You know, see? So if you will be removing this removing the 45 degree and put a splayed opening, it will create a deeper penetration. Okay, you can see, no? So this is one of the most efficient application of the sunlight, no, skylight. So these are the different application, as you can see. No? This one below is they put a interior reflection diffuse light. No? They put a diffuser to create accent, no, and not to create a completely direct exposure to sunlight, and to give a more calming ambience inside the room. So clerestories according to the building height, no, the recommended spacing for clerestories and monitors are shown below. So these are the typical calculation. No? You can use this formula in creating clerestory. Okay, so this is one application of the clerestory. This is the clerestory. You see, so daylight will be going inside the room, but you can attain privacy. No? At the same time, the daylight will be going inside the room. So that is the purpose of the clerestory. And this one is to create additional daylight inside the room. This is probably a library. So he wanted more daylight inside the room. So he put a clerestory above the floor, the ceiling line. So this is the sustainable lighting design. So the contents are goals of daylighting, sky condition, daylighting factor, daylighting sources, components of daylight, guidelines for initial daylighting design, design analysis and methods, and daylighting simulation programs. So what is daylight? So it improves aesthetics. Daylighting design is beneficial to health. Daylighting to human is important in that it is necessary for visual comfort, okay? Visual comfort, and providing psychological needs. So we need daylighting for us to know if it's morning or evening. We need to know, we need to have daylight to monitor what is happening outside. Okay, if it's raining, you can see. If it's cloudy, if it's a storm, typhoon, so it also creates visual comfort. Okay, so the using of natural light from the sun costs nothing to the environment but pays big dividends to the building occupants. So if you maximize the daylight, the sun doesn't charge fees or payment for daylighting. So it's free. So it reduces lighting costs. The overall objective of daylighting is to minimize the amount of artificial light and reduces electricity costs. If you don't need to do a task, inside the room, you can maximize the natural light, to go around the room. You don't need to put the electricity on. So it can also lower the HVAC costs as well. Electrical lighting produce a lot of heat, whereas it probably properly controlled, natural lighting generates hardly any heat at all. So this method is used in the areas in Northern America that they need the daylight to create heat inside the room during summer. And during winter, they just they put curtains or they put low E glass to reduce the heat inside the room, but maximize the daylight. So this will differ in different regions. So sky conditions, standard overcast sky, clear sky without sun, partly cloud sky is typical of the range of illumination we commonly experience during our lives. Bright sunlight is 100,000 lux. Dull overcast day, it's 5,000 lux. In general office, it's about 500 lux. In domestic lounge, it's about 50 lux. In moonlight, it's about 0.1 lux. So this is different sky condition that you can let inside the room. The light from the outside will go inside the room, and it will create the different type of lux, lux based on lux meter. Okay, so if you're inside the room in an office, you don't need more daylight. You only need 500 lux. So the amount of the light is striking the Earth's surface varies by the latitude due to the angle of incidence, the amount of light absorbed by the atmosphere. So as you go up to the equator, the daylight is lesser. The lux calculation is lesser. But in a tropical region, if you are near the equator, the daylight exposure is higher, or the lux is higher. As you can see, in the equator, you can gain at least 18,000 lux. No? Okay, so daylight factor, or DF, when a building is designed to rely on daylighting, a major design concern is the daylighting factor. So which is expressed on the ratio of illuminations or nature of illuminance, which is EI, to available outdoor illuminance, which is EH, under overcast sky. So EI, which is the available outdoor illuminance, EH is the outdoor illuminance, times 100, that is the daylight factor. So you can what you call this? You can use equipment to measure the daylight inside the outside or inside the room. So this is the commonly used in calculating what type of additional lighting you can use inside the room. Okay, so let's say during an experiment, you are experiencing a low daylight inside the room. You need to calculate what you will be addressing, add additional lighting, artificial lighting, or add additional windows, so that you can create more daylight inside the room, okay? And calculate it based on this daylighting factor. So this is the daylighting factor. As you can see, daylight factor in percentage. No? As you can see, this is 2, 1.5, 2, 1. So these are the different daylighting factors. So you can experiment on how to calculate the daylighting factor, and this is the recommended. No? If you go below this daylighting factor recommendation, it means that you are not designing it according to the standard. So you need to attain or gain create a proper daylighting factor percentage inside the room. So example, no, as you can see, this is an example of a daylighting factor. No? These are different calculations. No? So you can calculate how many lux is being produced inside the room. Okay, so these are the different types of samples. So the daylighting sources, okay, daylighting sources may be categorized as direct light or indirect light. So direct light is direct sunlight and diffuse light, and indirect light is from the reflective or translucent diffusers that were originally illuminated by primary or other secondary sources. So those are the indirect lights. So the components of a daylight, understanding the components of a daylight is important to the design of apertures and the selection of material. Daylight's illuminance in a building consists of 3 components. Number 1 is sky component, which is SC, externally reflected component, which is ERC, no? And internally reflected components is IRC1 plus IRC2. So the DF is the sum of these 3 components, each calculated individually for each location. So you need to calculate the different illuminance of the daylight, and you add all of them, and you can create a daylighting DF or daylighting factor. Okay. So components of a daylight, which is a sky component, is the portion of the total daylight illuminance at the point received directly from the sky or sky visible through an aperture. Okay. So external reflected components, or ERC, reflected light recessed from the exterior obstruction onto the point of consideration. This doesn't include ground reflecting light. Okay. So this can be calculated using a instrument that can measure daylight. Okay. Component of a daylight, this is internally reflected component. As you can see, this is the daylight that is penetrating inside the room. So this is a part. This is also one part of to compute the daylighting factor. So number 1 is the direct sunlight. Number 2 is the sunlight reflected from the wall. Number 3 is the sunlight or the daylight reflected from inside the room. So those 3 factors, you will add them all, then you can get the DF. Now, guidelines in initial daylighting design. the guidelines used for the designer during the conceptual and schematic stages of design. These guidelines assume overcast sky condition. So we have the 2.5 the height guidelines, no? So section show the 2.5H guidelines, which assumes a sufficient daylight of the desk plane will be delivered at the 2.5 times the height of the window above the desk plane. So if this window is about 1 meter, so the daylight will penetrate inside the room 2.5 times. Okay, so if this is 1, this is 2.5. If this is 0.5, this will be less than 2.5 or 1.25. 1.25 the height. Okay, so you need to understand that if you have a large opening, you will have a better daylighting inside the room. Okay. So 1530 guidelines. Plan shows about 15/30 guidelines, which assumes that the sufficient daylight will be delivered to the desk plane at the 15 feet or 4.6 meters distance from the window. At the 15 to 30 feet daylight zone, you will need the supplementary electric lighting, and zoning beyond 30 feet will receive virtually no daylight. So this is the 1530. Usually it's about 15 feet from the window, no? And it's about if it's exceeding 15 feet up to 30 feet, there will be no more daylight inside the room. So this is one of the calculations that we use in daylighting. So you need to, that is 2.5 the height. Number 2 is 1530 guidelines. Okay. So another is side lighting and top lighting daylight factor. So the size of the windows, clerestories, or skylights may be estimated by using the simple formulas in table 8.5, which is above, no? So part AB, which provide target daylighting factors, uses values like this. So these design guidelines consider two factors, and the height of the window and the wall of the window or the skylight area compared to the area of each daylight space. No? This is this is a more complex type of analyzing the amount of daylight penetrating inside the room or inside the house, no? So there are several formulas enumerated, no? On different types of clerestories or top lighting. Okay. So design analysis method, no? In this following section, several interior daylighting analysis methods are described, no? The CEI method, a simple, rapid, straightforward, and reasonably accurate daylighting calculation model or method. So this is the International Commission of Illumination, Commission at the National. This is one of the methods that are being considered. No? This is one of the standards that's being considered in daylighting. We have the design analysis method. This system is based upon the daylighting factor described previously as applied in the standard overcast CIE sky. Dresler developed a set of more than 100 curves covering rooms or applying proportion and fenestration. A typical curve is shown in figure on the right side. Okay. So design analysis method, which is the CI method, as I explained on the previous slides. No, you can see how they compute the daylighting factor inside the room. No. So there is also a graphic design method, no? The graphic daylighting design method, which is GDDM, okay? And we also one is the IESNA lumen method. So there are different types of method to calculate the daylighting inside the room. No? So some is very basic, some are more complex, but this daylighting method is also using aid us in how to calculate the number of fluorescent or incandescent or energy saving bulbs to be installed inside the room. Okay. So there is also what you call daylighting simulation program, which is Dialax. No, this is a program or a software that is what you call the applicable to Autodesk, okay, or based on Autodesk format. So this is commonly used by electrical engineers in designing a number of electrical fixtures inside the room or inside the building or inside the hallway or the house. No, Dialax is what you call this in-demand software, no, by electrical engineers. But sometimes you need to create adjustments, no, because this is based on the maximums or standards, no. So you need to adjust the illumination upon the comfort level of the user. Okay. So this is also a scale down model, no, to calculate the daylight, no. So this is a three-dimensional scale, but you can create a scale model on SketchUp and insert the what you call this the geolocation of the building, and then you can calculate now the daylight. Okay. So this ends the lecture, no?